Something big just happened in the AI space, and it completely changes the dynamics of this entire AI rally. For months, Nvidia has been the uncontested arms dealer of AI, but today Google and Meta just threw a serious challenge on the table as Meta reportedly wants to use Google's chips in its AI data centers by 2027, and they might even rent Google's chips next year. That puts Google directly into Nvidia's market at a time when companies are already trying to reduce their dependency on Nvidia. Google just launched Gemini 3, which is their newest model. Their stock is breaking out on the charts, and Google has gapped up for 3 sessions in a row, which is something that has only happened 6 other times in history. And historically, those streaks mark some short-term peaks with big drawdowns to follow. Nvidia even felt the pressure today as they posted on X to remind everyone that there is still a generation ahead of the industry. And at the same time, the broader market responded surprisingly well. Seasonality is strong. Historical stats favor the upside into December. But consumer confidence just hit a 7-month low, and recession-type anxiety is creeping back in, especially with unemployment rising among college graduates. Today, we're breaking down the charts, the key levels we're watching, and what this new AI rivalry means for the market heading into the last full trading day of the week.
Google is making a clear push and is inching closer to Nvidia in the AI race. And we can see that the market really liked that today, for Google anyways, as Google started to fly to the upside. Nvidia did end up sinking down, though, over 4% after this news with Alphabet/Google was released. We can actually see on the daily chart just how much activity Google has been having and how much bullishness has been hitting this stock. Again, they've been clawing back towards Nvidia, and over the same period, Nvidia has been really falling down, especially since like the beginning of November. There's been a clear shift to the downside as they fell through 200 and even hit recent lows around 170. So that's a pretty clear shift. And today, that shift was highlighted again as the information reported that Meta is considering using Google's TPUs, or tensor processing units. Now, tensor processing units are actually customized chips, and they're actually saying that this gives Google an advantage over rivals as it can offer a highly efficient product for AI. Of course, Nvidia is very large in the chip space, but seeing other companies explore different options, like let's just say Google's chips, that's a big step in the other direction, right? Nvidia's almost had a monopoly in the chip game. Now that we're starting to see companies make this shift and try to have more diversified alternatives to Nvidia's chips, it is hitting Nvidia, but at the same time, helping Google a lot.
Yeah, and Google's been on fire lately, like we've been talking about, especially with the recent release of Gemini 3. This has been huge for Google stock, and it's, really pushed it up over these, past couple of weeks. And I thought it was very interesting how Nvidia definitely felt the burn today, not only with their stock, but also with their, with their PR team. You could see they made a post on X saying, "We're delighted by Google's success. They've made great advances in AI, and we continue to supply them. But Nvidia is still a generation ahead of the industry. It's the only platform that runs every AI model and does it everywhere computing is done." So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, Nvidia still is the arms dealer of AI for now, but I think real competition is starting to show up.
It really is. And, that competition is going to have some good moves as well. Google's kind of one of the first big names that we've really seen traders gravitate towards, and that we've seen really big headlines come out about this. Let's just say other people and other big companies that are researching and developing their own chips. If we start to see breakthroughs there, who knows? Maybe they'll start to have good moves like Google's been having. I mean, Google has been on fire. Even just like from the recent low to the high of day today, Google has risen about or over 20%, hitting 21.3% right around that high. So that is quite the move there. And like you said, Nvidia still is like the AI arms dealer, but it has been dipping a lot recently. And I know a lot of traders have been really worried about some of these larger supports giving out. Nvidia does have a big support coming up around 164 to 165 that if it starts to fall below that, I think people are going to get pretty worried. But again, Nvidia is the king.
Yeah, like it held up fine today, but if it does test some of those lower support levels, it can go into the danger zone pretty quickly. But what I think everyone's really locked onto right now is Google because they are at all-time highs and they just gapped up for the third straight session of over 1%. And we can see historically speaking, streaks like these actually marked short-term peaks with an average 3-month max drawdown exceeding 20%, which is really big. Another thing that's, maybe even more concerning is that if we look just at, let's say, the 1 month change for Google, we can see that it is positive only 20% of the time, and the average drop is 4.5%. So it's great to see all this news with Google, but I think the stats are, telling a different story.
They really are. And, we've seen a lot of companies go crazy with AI, and who knows, maybe this will end up maybe flipping the script on these statistics. But whenever we look at this, it definitely is striking whenever 1 month later you only go green 20% of the time, then you do see a big pullback of around that 4.5% mark. Let's just say that Google does end up pulling back 4.5% from where it is right now. Let's just say, okay, so how bad of a drop would that really be? I mean, that only puts Google around 310. They were literally at 310 yesterday. So it's not that it wouldn't be that crazy of a drop, but again, to not get that positivity continuing is a big sign. So just keep that in mind. If you are looking to buy Google up here, it might be a little bit elevated and it might be smarter to wait for a better dip to come in.
Yeah, we'll keep it close on watch, but another thing is that the market itself had a pretty good day today. I know it was in panic mode a little bit over the past couple of weeks, but it has been recovering very strongly. And one thing that I found very interesting is that when we look at the S&P 500 right now, this is only the 9th time it has stayed above its 100-day moving average every single day from June to October, and in the 8 previous cases, the market finished November through December positive every single time with an average gain of 6.4%. So not too bad, Tom.
Yeah, and even December, even if we just look at that one specifically, it's went green 75% of the time with an average percent rise of 1.5%. But those 2-month readings being 6.4% and 6.21% on the average and the median is definitely some really good statistics that I really like looking for here in the shorter term. And then we can also see here that there's even more positive market data. Whenever the S&P 500, at least January through October, is up at least 10%, and November happens to turn negative, December goes green 100% of the time as well. So we're actually seeing a lot of bullish statistics come in, especially at a time where we've been seeing sentiment start to shift a lot in the overall market. We've been looking at sentiment data showing that sentiment's dropping, and you can obviously tell whenever you look at the market's volatility over the past few weeks.
Exactly. And at this point, we're only a month away from Christmas. I've been seeing more and more comments about a potential Santa rally this year, so we shall see. But December is historically a pretty strong time of the year for the market, so that's great to see. We will continue to monitor the situation and provide stats as it plays out, but we also have to talk about the risks on the table as well. And today we got some data showing that consumer confidence hit its lowest level in 7 months, bringing it to the lowest level since April and basically near the COVID-19 crisis levels. So, Tom, what is going on here?
Yeah, so essentially in October, there was a reading of 95.5 on this consumer confidence reading, and then we ended up seeing it come down to 88.7. That's a pretty big dip, and we can see that, coming off of April lows of this year, we have started to see, consumer confidence shoot back to the upside a little bit. But in the ultra short term, you can tell that it's starting to turn back over, and that's a pretty negative sign. I think that this has been pretty telling, though. I think a lot of people do already know this, considering that the market's been so shaky, and we've been hearing a lot of talk about AI bubbles and different things like that, but it's definitely something that we always like to bring up because in the shorter term, we have been seeing some buying pressure the past couple of trading days, but there are still risks out there in the economy, and a lot of people are really worried about, the labor market, right? They're worried about income, jobs, and just the economy in general. So that's why we're seeing this confidence start to erode a little bit. And Mike, we even have some data here with college-educated job losses on the rise.
Yeah, so this is pretty crazy. So basically, unemployed Americans with a 4-year college degree now make up a record 25.3% of total unemployment. This is also double the rate that we've seen in the 2008 financial crisis. And the labor market, like you said, is weakening, and it's weakening across all education levels. I know more and more people have been getting college educated over the decades, which can help explain some of this movement. But it's definitely a striking stat that, it definitely certainly reflects this dimming consumer confidence. So interesting. We'll continue to monitor this. But like when we look at the market itself right now, it's holding up pretty well. We still have a little bit of room to retest all-time highs, but we're slowly getting closer. Tom, when we look at SPY right now, what are you seeing on the charts, and what should we look out for heading into tomorrow?
I know that we've been looking at a downtrend on the SPY recently, and something that happened today is we are actually testing the trend of lower highs. Now, if you actually follow the trend line very closely, we did actually break out through that today, and once we broke through it, that's really where the SPY started to really explode. If we go to a 5-minute chart, you can see how it touched the trend line early on this morning, but once we started to get through around lunchtime is where the real volatility and I would say the real bullish price action started to hit. But whenever I look at this, there is a big resistance coming up now with the SPY, and we've tested this resistance 2 other times recently. It's right around 676. So if we're able to break above the high of day from today, just above that 676 point, then watch for SPY to continue up. I really want to see this area break, though. This is a very critical sell wall, and obviously there is a big resistance here. So if we do end up rejecting, I am going to be watching the support from yesterday, which is the high of day, right around 670. That'll be the first big support that I watch, and then ultimately if that breaks, I'll be watching for the next larger one down here closer to 660. There are some in the middle, like right around 665 as well, which actually lines up on the chart, but that's what I'm watching for the next couple days, Mike. I was actually expecting a rejection down off of this trend line today, but we did not get it. We ended up blasting through, and as that happened, a lot of traders really capitalized as we started breaking out.
Yeah, Nick, it's very exciting too because we're retesting a key area of resistance. The market has been very strong over these past few trading days, and what's pretty exciting, specifically heading into tomorrow, is that for 2025, Wednesday has been the strongest day of the week. We can see its annualized returns have been like 93%, which just crushes every other day of the week, which is a great sign. I would say this week's a little bit different than most because of the holiday, but you really can't complain too much when you look at these stats. And then another thing too, like we've been covering over the past few videos, is last week we saw a ton of put volume come in to SPY, and we noted how this is normally a bullish thing last week, and we've been continuing to follow up with this, and we've seen the pattern react like very well off of its past patterns. We are now heading into the 4 days later mark. The market is positive around 83% of the time in these instances, and the stats are showing that the uptrend tends to continue.
Yeah, especially on that 4th day. And, even the further that you get out, getting towards 1 month later, the market's green 100% of the time whenever you get readings like this. So I find this interesting. There's not too much data here, and a lot of them come from April of this year, so keep that in mind. But nonetheless, these do result in some pretty positive, in a positive skew, at least, with this data set in general. But like you said, Mike, this is definitely going to be a bit of a different week. As we know, the market is closed this Thursday for Thanksgiving, and then on Friday the market actually closes early at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody if we don't see you in the Discord or anything like that by then. But no trading Thursday, and an early close is coming Friday, and there could be low volume on the early close day of Friday as well. And then Mike, whenever we talk about data for this week, we got PPI and retail sales data come out today. It didn't really affect the market too much. There is durable goods orders tomorrow, and then looking at the earnings, everybody's favorite, John Deere, reports tomorrow.
Huge earnings tomorrow, Tom. Huge. Yeah, so let's get right into some setups and predictions. That's where the action's at for tomorrow. A stock that is definitely on my radar is Pfizer, and it's to the upside. I know we've covered a recent big money trade with this one, the $2.4 million call trade with the $25.50 strike calls for December 19th of 2025. This trader really nailed the timing on this one. The stock is moving to the upside in a pretty respectable way. Today, it continued this bullish momentum. It didn't have the strongest close ever, but it had like a very net bullish day. And this stock is definitely on my radar given the recent big money trade. Also, this big money trade is now in the money, and the expiration's pretty soon. And like we talked about with Pfizer, like the healthcare slash like pharmaceutical area of the market has just been crushing it lately.
It really has. Like, whether we look at Pfizer, or even if you switch over to something like Moderna, the past few trading days, we've been starting to see these stocks really pop off again. And Pfizer's had a lot of great hype, honestly, since like the end of September, early October. There's been some crazy candles coming in. So I will be watching it up as well. There's definitely a lot of good short-term volatility here. With my first stock, I'm actually looking at Oracle for a possible upside move off of the downtrend. So whenever I look at Oracle, it's been downtrending a lot over the past few weeks, and what I'm looking for is in the ultra short term, we started to see it bounce back to the upside today off of this lower 186 and then 190 support range. So what I'm watching for is some of these lower supports to continue to hold up over the next few trading days, and for some bases to start to really form down here, especially if it can hold 194 for tomorrow. I want to see it break through $200, and I do think that there could be some good scalping opportunities as we start to bounce back up. And again, we are starting to see some tech stocks start to recover slightly. So if Oracle can break through that key $200 resistance, then watch it to the upside in the short term. Again, I think there could be some good scalping opportunities here.
Sounds good. Yeah, Oracle has had a crazy run over these past couple of months, and it is to the point where it has been selling off for a long while now, so it'll definitely be one worth keeping on watch. Another stock that's on my radar is AMD, but it's to the downside. This is a stock that got hit pretty hard today along with Nvidia, but it did recover pretty well from this morning's opening sell-off. If we do see a break below that like $200 support level and potentially even down to 196, I think AMD can definitely be at like a major risk for a continued drop lower. Of course, Nvidia struggled today with the Meta and Google news, and if we do see more pressure on recent lows, I think it can make for some good downside opportunities. But a setup like this one, of course, should not be just like blindly jumped into. We want to see confirmation of sellers continuing to hammer this one again. $200 is a key level. 196 is relevant as well, and even that recent low right around like 194.
Yeah, it seems like it's trying to double bottom here, and if that double bottom does start to give out, I'll definitely be watching it down as well. There could be some great opportunities, and AMD ended up closing down over 4% today, even with that decent recovery. It could have been a lot worse even. But with my next stock, I'm looking at Tesla for possible upside price action here. I thought the way in which Tesla closed today was actually pretty awesome, and we can see that there's a clear resistance overhead close to this 420 range. And if we go to the Bookmap, we can see that 420 was a clear sell wall today, and there's not really that much sellers stacked up until we get to 425. So what I would really like to see for tomorrow is some good confirmation above 420, and the way that we would get that confirmation is by breaking above 422. I think that that's a good enough range that if we break there, we could start to go on a much larger run to the upside. That's what I'm watching for. Shout out to Bookmap for the X-ray vision as always, but if resistance breaks, watch for that scalp opportunity.
Sounds good. All right, well, let's jump right into today's momentum plays then. And with the first one, we have MGM Resorts, ticker symbol MGM, to the upside.
Some of the casino stocks have been really hot lately. If MGM can break above 34.40, watch it up.
All right, with the next one, we have Energy Fuels, ticker symbol UUUU, also to the upside.
Yeah, even in after hours, this one really continued flying here. If it can break out above 1465 tomorrow, then watch for an upside continuation.
And then we have Futu Holdings, FUTU, to the downside.
Yeah, Futu had a big pullback today. If they break under that wick and low of day around 166, then watch them back down.
All right, so we have these three stocks on the radar for potential continuations if and only if they break through the levels listed. These stocks are volatile, so you have to protect yourself. Whether you trade one of these three stocks or anything else, focus on what matters, which is making smart, long-term oriented trading decisions. Know why you get in any trade. Have a stop loss. Size reasonably, and above all else, protect your capital. If you need help, check out the Key Lessons channel in the StockedUp Discord. It's completely free. And besides that, let's jump right into today's $1.1 million big money trade. And we are looking at none other than Zoom, ticker symbol ZM. This is a stock that has been left in the dust over these past few years. And Tom, believe it or not, Zoom is actually trading at the same levels it was trading at before the COVID pandemic even started. So you're going to have to zoom back a long while to get a view at this one. We can see that, of course, it had that insane pump during the COVID pandemic, and it gave back all of those gains. And basically, this stock has just been stuck over these past few years. Today, they released earnings. They reported good earnings, and the stock moved up in a pretty big way. It moved up by around 10%, which is great. The trader here bought the 115 strike call options for January 21st of 2028. It's a $1.1 million trade. Clearly, given the expiration, this is more of a longer-term trade, but these options are out of the money, which shows that the trader here expects a big move from Zoom. And honestly, I think this is a very interesting setup. I don't think it's for everyone, though, given the long-term expiration, but I think there is opportunity in, looking at stocks that, the crowd has ignored, especially when they just report recent good earnings. And, even with the stock being so flat over the past few years, the company has continued to grow. So we shall see.
Yeah, Zoom's a very interesting stock. It's been down in the dumps for a long time. Like you said, the charts definitely get a bit weird with Zoom, with how much you have to zoom out because of that crazy COVID pump, and then even with just how flat it's been, it makes for a pretty weird setup. But one thing that I've noticed on the chart is that Zoom has a big range going on here. Now, again, there's a lower and upper end of this range. I would say the lower end of the range is closer to $60 to $65. In the ultra short term, you could say that there's even a good support right around that $78 to $80 range as well. So I'll be watching those bottom areas of that range. But something that it's been doing is it's been testing the upper end of its range recently as well. And we've seen a lot of good setups come into play over the past few days where there will be an opportunity in some of these pumps as these resistances break. And I could see Zoom actually starting to pump quite a bit to the upside if we really do continue, and this is a true breakout that is forming. So I like this big money trade quite a bit. Again, though, there's so much time to it, it might not even be viable to say that we're going for a short-term break here, because the big money traders are going to probably hold this one for a couple of years.
Yep, so either way, we shall see. If you are new to the channel, welcome, and definitely consider obliterating that subscribe button. Every single day it takes us a long time to make these videos where we cover everything you need to know and more, whether it be recent big money trades, SPY levels and analysis, breaking news and events, upcoming earnings, economic events, historical stats, basically everything you need to know we cover. And if you subscribe, you'll get our videos recommended to you more often, so definitely consider doing that. But we also want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, City Jr. in the StockedUp Discord, who had some great profits today with IBM. So huge shout out to you, City Jr. Keep up the great work going forward, and it is awesome to see gains like these. If you guys are into short-term trading, now is the time of the year to save. Coupon code Black Friday with the first link in the description in the comments down below will give you access to the lowest price possible for the StockedUp trading floor. This is the ultimate spot for short-term trading. You get full access to our army of custom trading bots. Today our surge bot had Reddit calls move up by 249%, MRK calls 225%, RKT calls 160%, KSS calls 160%. The list goes on, and of course there were a handful of duds sprinkled in there as well. You get daily access to the big money trades, our weekly live events. You can chat with Town and myself all day long, access all of the other resources, and also access, I would say even more importantly, all of the resources and new features that we are adding as well into 2026. So definitely check it out. Coupon code Black Friday is how you get in for the lowest price possible, and it is the spot to be. Thank you all so much for watching, and let's crush it in the market tomorrow.